It was a calm Sunday afternoon in Savannah, Georgia, the kind of day where the sun warms your skin just right, and the air smells sweet from the magnolia trees in bloom. I was out on my porch, sipping sweet tea, letting the breeze lull me into peace when my phone rang. It was my sister Amanda. "Hey, can you take care of Ryan for the weekend? I've got a last-minute work trip I owe you big time," she said, almost breathless. I hadn't seen Ryan in nearly a year. The last time he visited, he was still that soft-spoken, well-mannered teenager who always helped carry bags and texted Amanda if he was going to be late. He didn't hesitate. "Of course," I told her when he showed up later that evening. I could tell time had done its work. He was taller, his voice deeper, and there was a quiet confidence in how he moved, but he still greeted me with a warm, genuine hug. "Thanks for having me, Aunt Claire," he said, and I smiled. Some things hadn't changed. That evening we caught up over spaghetti. His favorite Willoft talked about school and music, then sank into the couch to binge watch, one of those crime shows we both used to like. By the time the third episode ended, the sky outside had gone dark and the house felt still. Then he turned to me, his expression shifting. "Aunt Claire," he said quietly, "can I ask you something kind of personal?" I muted the TV and gave him my full attention. Of course, he hesitated, looking down at his hands like the words were heavy. "I don't know who else to talk to," he said. "It's kind of embarrassing." "Whatever it is," I told him, "gently, you can tell me." So he did. He opened up about school, about a girl he liked who barely noticed him, about feeling out of place with friends, who teased him for never having a girlfriend. He talked about how everyone expected him to man up, to act like he had it all figured out, when deep down he didn't even know what that meant. He felt like he had to bottle it all up just to avoid looking weak. I listened. Then I shared stories from when I was young and unsure, funny, awkward moments I'd normally never admit to. He laughed for the first time. That night I saw his shoulders drop and the tightness in his face ease later. As I was setting up the guest room, I heard a soft knock on my door. "Aunt Claire," he said, standing there with a slightly uncertain look. "Would it be weird if I slept in your room tonight like when I was little?" It caught me off guard. He was nearly a man now, but I saw something familiar in his eyes, something small and quiet that just wanted to feel safe. Smiled, of course. "Honey, just like old times." He lay down on one side of the bed, me on the other. The room was quiet, peaceful. I could hear his breathing slow. As he drifted off, and in that stillness, I realized just how hard it must be for teenagers like him. So much pressure to be something, to prove themselves, and so few spaces where they can just be the next morning. I made pancakes. He sat at the counter, scrolling on his phone, looking more at ease. "Thanks for last night," he said softly. "I really needed that any time," I replied, and he meant it. Later, we took a walk through the park. He told me he wanted to study marine biology. Someday, said he dreamed of seeing the ocean, doing something meaningful, getting out of town and making his own path. I felt something swell in my chest. Pride, maybe hope. Sunday evening arrived quicker than I expected. Amanda pulled up, looking worn out but happy. She hugged me, then ruffled Ryan's hair. "So, how was the weekend?" she asked. Ryan gave a casual shrug. "It was good, Aunt Claire's cool." After they left, I went back to the porch and sat in silence, letting the memories of the past days settle. It hadn't been some big event, no life-changing drama. Just simple, honest moments, a teenager figuring out who he was and an adult who happened to be there at the right time now. Every once in a while, Ryan still calls me. We talk about school, the books he's reading, life in general. And every time he does, I'm reminded of how much that quiet weekend meant. Sometimes the biggest changes in life don't come from major milestones. They come from the smallest, most unexpected gestures, like a knock on a bedroom door and a simple question. "Can I sleep in your room tonight?" Weeks passed after that weekend, and life settled back into its usual rhythm. Workarounds, the occasional family gathering, but every now and then I'd glance at the guest room or find a leftover piece of the crime show we never finished, and I'd think of Ryan not as the shy little boy I used to babysit, but as a young man at the edge of becoming something more. Then, one evening, my phone buzzed. It was Ryan. Hey, Aunt Claire. You got a minute? We talked for over an hour. He told me he was thinking about joining a marine science club at school, something he would have been too nervous to do a few months ago. He mentioned a new teacher who encouraged him and even a new girl. He'd started talking to nothing serious, but enough to make him smile when he said her name. I listened, encouraged him, laughed at his jokes, and somewhere in the middle of our conversation, I realized this was becoming our new normal, these little check-ins, these moments where I got to witness him growing quietly, steadily into the man he was meant to be. And it wasn't just him who changed that weekend opened. Something in me, too. I began paying closer attention to the teenagers I saw at the grocery store with their heads down, to the quiet kids at church, who didn't say much to my own assumptions about what it meant to have it together. I started volunteering once a month at the local youth center, just a couple hours on Saturdays, helping with college prep, organizing workshops, sometimes just sitting with kids who needed to talk. Not all of them opened up, but some did, and each time they did, I thought of Ryan. One afternoon, maybe 5 months later, Ryan called again, but this time his voice was shaking. I messed up. He said he'd gotten into an argument with Amanda, something about grades and curfews and pressure. He'd said things he regretted, slammed a door. He didn't feel like himself. Everyone keeps acting like I have to be perfect, he said. Like I can't mess up. Like I don't get to just be human. I let him talk. I didn't jump in with advice or try to fix anything. Just listened when he paused. I said, Ryan, part of growing up isn't about being perfect. It's about learning how to bounce back, and sometimes the strongest thing you can do is admit you're struggling. There was silence on the other end, then a soft, thanks, Aunt Clary, just needed someone to say that. Later that night, Amanda texted me, thanks for talking to him. He really listens to you. I told her the truth. I don't have any magic answers. I'm just someone who picks up the phone when it rings. By the time Ryan graduated high school, he'd gotten into a coastal university with a strong marine biology program. When he got the acceptance email, he sent me a screenshot and wrote, I made it, you were right, I found my ocean. I cried when I read that summer before he moved out of state, we had one last dinner together on my porch. He looked older, his face leaner, his voice more grounded. But the spark in his eyes was still the same. Do you remember that weekend? I asked him. He laughed. You mean when I asked to sleep in your bed at 17? We both chuckled. I remember more than that. He said, I remember feeling like I wasn't crazy for feeling what I felt like. I mattered. You always mattered. I said you just needed someone to remind you. We didn't need to say much more. The crickets chirped, the trees rustled, the air carried the soft scent of summer flowers. It was peaceful in a way that made you believe the world could be kind. Now years have passed. Ryan's in his final year of university. He's traveled, interned with ocean conservation groups. Evan started mentoring younger students, kids who remind him of himself, and every time we talk, no matter how busy life gets, he still calls me Aunt Claire. With the same warmth as that first night, sometimes I look back and wonder, what if Amanda hadn't called that Sunday? What if I had been too busy or too tired or just didn't want the inconvenience? I would have missed all of it. I would have missed the chance to witness someone growing into themselves. I would have missed being someone he could trust. So now, whenever I get a call asking for a favor, no matter how small, I pause and think this could be the beginning of something I'll never forget, because sometimes all it takes is a quiet weekend, an open door, and someone willing to say yes.